Okay. It looks like we're live. Richard, you ready to get nuts?
Well, let's do it.
Okay. On today's episode of Playing Small is Cancelled, we're joined by a social media juggernaut. He is a LinkedIn Top Voices influencer, an experienced executive communications manager, and a social media coach who has helped thousands master social media tools and build their platforms with confidence. Big facts. He's a former executive vice president of marketing with 18 years of experience and an award winning pioneer in technology, collaboration, and cloud computing, having appeared on CNN, GMA, and other major media outlets. No big deal. He hosts the Digital First Leadership Podcast, and with his extensive experience consulting startups and high growth tech firms globally, he teaches leaders how to master social media and build high caliber sales teams in today's digital first world. Please welcome the dynamic, abundant, brilliant, and kind, the handsome and multifaceted Richard Bliss. How you doing, Richard?
Craig, I'm doing well. That was quite an introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure. All right, good. You're feeling nice and elevated. I did good by you.
Oh, yeah, that was great. Kind of, let's see, what else do I got out there? 5 daughters. That always gets people excited.
Okay.
And then 2 ex-wives. So that's always on the other side of that. So there you go. Now you know everything. Now you know
Yes.
everything.
No secrets. Okay, I
No,
love
no
it.
secrets.
You know what? Straight off the cuff today, before we dive into all the awesome and exciting stuff that you love to chat about and that you have going on now, I'll put a little icebreaker. You ready for me?
Sure, let's go.
Richard, for you, what does it mean to live an authentic life?
One of the biggest things about living an authentic life. Now, I did not know that question was coming. So let me give you the answer that comes to my mind and the feeling, and that is we need to make sure we don't compare our insides to other people's outsides, right? That worrying that, oh, I'm not meeting up to or measuring up to somebody else. And so living an authentic life really is identifying, taking the time to reflect and say, what am I good at? What do I suck at? And how can I then find a way to set aside the things I suck at and pursue the things I'm good at so that I can find that passion, that activity, that effort, that energy. And that's one of the ideas of being authentic, identifying and knowing, look, I'm not good at that, and that's okay. And that's one of the biggest things is being okay with us not being perfect, not being the best, not being the top, but still recognizing that we have unique qualities and skills that set us apart.
Yeah, honestly, one of the most beautiful answers I've ever heard. And it's okay to not be okay all the
It's
time.
okay.
Yeah, I spent a very long time being inauthentic. I was on Wall Street for 13 years before I reinvented myself, found my calling, and so forth. And I don't even know. I created this persona of what I thought the world wanted to see from me. And it wasn't only until I reinvented myself that I really connected and went deep and said, you know what? I'm going to try this. I feel very connected to it. There's no guarantee. But the one thing that I can guarantee is that for the first time in my life, I'm going to show up in the world as the real, raw, strange, authentic cat that I am. And I know not everybody's going to love it, but the right people will gravitate and the wrong people will exit the movie. And sure
Yeah.
enough, as soon as I did that, that's when the world really began to see me.
Yeah, they self-select themselves, don't they? Your audience will remove themselves for those that it doesn't resonate with, who are more tied up to the image, the facade, and who maybe don't feel comfortable with the real you. But that's okay. That's
Yeah.
because those people don't necessarily need to be in your life.
Yeah. Beautifully said, brother. So many places we could take this conversation.
Yeah.
I want to make every second count, make the most. And a couple of things that you love to talk about and that you're so good at is one of them is that in regards to LinkedIn as a platform, sometimes I feel like it's overlooked. I know Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but LinkedIn's a different beast. And there's really, really, really good people that play in that playground, so to speak. I saw you say that the key to standing out on LinkedIn is engaging in conversations that demonstrate your expertise. Is that right?
Yeah, that we call LinkedIn, well, I do, the upside down world of social media, as a reference to our Stranger Things fans. And that is because
Love Stranger Things.
right? So all of your efforts on other social media platforms are actively sabotaging your efforts to be successful on LinkedIn. Almost everything you do on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter are going to sabotage your ability to reach an audience, to engage with authenticity, and to actually drive value from that platform. So this causes a challenge for people who are coming to LinkedIn because they try their old habits that they've used to be an influencer or success, and then they get nothing. And they're like, oh, LinkedIn sucks, right? It's not realizing that the game is radically different here for a variety of reasons.
Yeah. And also, one of the reasons why is because it's a different type of community or audience on here than maybe other platforms, right?
That's one. It's a different type of audience. Also, let's talk about the algorithm. The algorithm is functioning. Oh, bless you. The algorithm is functioning from a different goal. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, their goal is to maximize your content to drive revenue for their customers. And their customers are not us, right? We are the product. And so they're advertisers. But on LinkedIn, a tiny fraction of their revenue comes from advertising. The vast majority of their billions, $11 billion of annual revenue comes from subscribers, people paying for the privilege to be on the platform. Say that 3 times. But the reason is that business people, professional people, people who are wanting to do on the professional side are paying money to be here through Premium, through LinkedIn Sales Navigator, through LinkedIn Recruiter. I mean, Craig, some of my clients spend more than $1 million a year for the tools to access LinkedIn, not for advertising, but simply for the access to LinkedIn. And that means that their platform is designed to reward a very different kind of behavior. If you're putting out cats sitting on Roombas, then LinkedIn's like, that doesn't bring value here. What brings value is, can you add to a conversation so that business or professional people, not business, but professional people can find value from the relationship with each other. That's their goal, which means that if I'm dumping just Instagram quotes, LinkedIn's like, that you didn't add any value to a conversation here. You just threw up a quote. Great. Might as well just take a picture of one of the inspirations hanging on my wall or something.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. And that's cool because it encourages you to really create meaningful conversations and engage. Not just like, I don't know the best way to say this. Like,
I can tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not the thumbs up, not the attaboy. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. Right? Behavior that we see on the other platforms. In addition, what people don't realize is that LinkedIn's not a content engine. It's a conversation engine, which means your behavior on their platform should not be focused on creating content. Your behavior on their platform should be you focused on participating in conversations. That is radically different than all of the other social media platforms where I'm giving thumbs up to people because they threw up something that inspired me. No, LinkedIn is saying, did you stop and participate in a conversation with that content? If you did, we're going to judge that content valuable. This means, this is also something, Craig, that a lot of people don't realize, is that when you put out a piece of content on LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't show it to your followers. They show it to less than 1 out of 10 of the people who follow you on the platform.
Wow.
Less than 10%. Because they're not trying for your content. They have actively said your content is not designed, our platform is not designed to make your content go viral. So they're going to show it to as few people as possible. Well, that's the opposite of Facebook or Instagram. They want to show it to as many people as possible, drive those advertising dollars. LinkedIn's like, no, we're going to show it to as few people as possible. And then for the next hour, we're going to track the behavior of that audience to see how they interact with it. If they start a conversation, then we'll show it to more people. But if all you do is get a bunch of likes, and this is what I do, Craig, all you do is get a bunch of likes, your content's not interesting, because a like on LinkedIn basically tells the algorithm, I didn't find that content interesting. Wait, I liked it. No, you simply gave it a thumbs up, moved on. You did not stop, stay, and participate in the conversation. Thereby, you didn't find it interesting. You only found it attractive for a moment, but you gave it that like and moved on. This is why people will find the content on LinkedIn is radically different as well. That succeeds. Video.
I like that you said that.
Video tends to be the worst performing content on LinkedIn. Tends to be. Now, there's always an outlier. I mean, the irony is my best performing piece of content ever was a video. But in general, our audience on LinkedIn sees a video, and what do? They click the like button and they move on. They don't stop and engage with our video in a conversation. Therefore, the algorithm sees that behavior. They don't judge your video. They judge your audience's behavior, saying, well, nobody stopped and participated in the conversation, gave it a bunch of likes. It's not that interesting. Move on. Wait, what do you mean? I gave it a bunch of likes and it's not that interesting. No, we are looking to see, did you start a conversation? And most content creators, Craig, really struggle with understanding how to create content that starts a conversation versus content that gets people's attention. Those are two very different
big
things.
difference right there.
Big difference.
So,
Because we're having a conversation. Well,
Sure.
I'm doing most of the talking, but we're trying to have a
no,
conversation.
this is great.
But if we threw up a video, or if we threw up an inspirational quote with somebody jumping across a chasm, that doesn't start a conversation. That gets a bunch of likes, and I'm going to give you some thumbs up. Okay, I got one more thing here before
Sure.
I finish my rant.
Let it rip. This is great.
Most people don't realize. So if we're on Instagram and you make a post and I see it and I like it and I make a comment on it, it's between you and me. I mean, it's not private, but I'm just basically talking to you. On LinkedIn, no. Again, upside down world. If you make a post and I comment on it, yeah, you see it, but so does a vast majority of my audience. More people see my comment on your post than would see my post about your post.
Mm.
When you hit the repost button on LinkedIn, that repost only goes to 1% of your audience. 1%, 1 out of 1,000 people. Is that right? No, 1 out of 100 people. Let me do my math right. 1 out of 100 people see you repost something. But if you leave a comment where you add to the conversation in the post, not hit repost and add a comment, but if you add that conversation, LinkedIn takes every 100% of our comments. 100% of every comment made on LinkedIn gets pushed to our audience, not just to the author. So if you are trying to build your brand, if you're trying to grow your audience, you're trying to be authentic, and you're pumping out content every day, and you're like, how come nobody's paying attention? LinkedIn's like, because you're not participating in anybody else's conversations. Here's a piece of advice I'll give to your audience.
Please.
Take a look at how many people have looked at your profile. Right now, I'm going to ask the audience who's listening, go look and see how many people have looked at your LinkedIn profile in the last 90 days. Now, that's going to give you a number, whatever that number is. Let's suppose it's 100. I'm picking a number. Now, for the next 5 days, all I want your audience members to do is go leave 3 comments on 3 different individuals' posts. I did it this morning. Got up, went through my LinkedIn, left 3 comments. But these aren't attaboys. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. One person who I didn't know had written a post about generative AI, and I found it fascinating. So I left a comment that talked about, I read the article. Here's what I found interesting. Here's some insights I had. That comment is now being pushed to my audience. I didn't have to write a post. And it's taking the post that I commented on with it. And then if the author, here's the thing, if the author responds to me, now my comment and her comment get pushed to her audience. I have now reached an audience that I would normally have never, ever encountered with my comment. I recently made a comment on a post from the New York Times. The author got 26 comments. 1/3 of those comments were on my comment. Let me just explain that. I made a comment, and then 8 more people commented on my comment, thereby driving my comment to an audience I would have never reached. Here's the promise. If they do that, 3 comments over the next 5 days, that number of people who have looked at their profile will jump by 300 to 500% in a week. All you need to do is go participate in other people's conversations, show interest, engage, and the algorithm will reward you by driving a massive audience to your profile to learn more about you, to see you, to follow you, to connect with you. And it's simple as that. You don't have to worry about creating content. I'm going to stop there for a minute because I'll keep going forever.
No, this is unbelievable, brother. First of all, thank you for all this unbelievable, priceless wisdom and knowledge. And that's so encouraging for people that are listening right now. Like, well, I just getting going. I don't have a big audience. Well, just with what you got, be proactive. Go leave 3 comments a day on other people's posts and be consistent and stay committed. And that will build your audience as well.
Almost overnight, literally almost overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you leave a comment? So the first thing is tag the author. Okay. So you go to somebody's post. Let's suppose you've made a post. And so I would leave a comment that said, and I would tag the @ Craig. Why am I doing that? Well, because some of your posts might generate 100 comments. I need my audience to immediately recognize who I'm talking to. so that they can hover over it. They can click on it, go straight to your profile. There's all kinds of reasons. So I'm going to tag you, Craig. You make a valid point, and I'm going to restate something I found out of your post that I found valuable for my audience. For my audience, because my audience is listening. You make an interesting point, and I'll restate it. And then, in my experience, on stage, traveling the world, working with clients, whatever, I'll just give from my experience, I see how this could be applicable. I've also recognized how this works. For example, today I saw a post by a friend of mine. He talked about being effective at conferences, how to be effective at conferences. So I left a comment that said, Tom, you make some great points about this idea of how to make a conference effective as an attendee. Here are a couple of other ideas that I've used. Boom, boom, boom. I really love point number 5 that you made, and do this. I'm going to take that away with me. Now, my comment is going to be lifted and put in front of his audience, put in front of my audience. And then if anybody likes it or comments on it, it's going to be put in front of their audience. And what are people going to find out? Advice that I have given that allows people to see my expertise without me even creating a post. And that's going to happen literally overnight.
Yeah. So cool and so unique compared to the other platforms that I think people think are more important. And I know there's people listening right now that they're trying to get LinkedIn up and running. So what they often do, and I've been guilty about this, but not after this conversation, is to just repurpose something they posted on, Facebook or Instagram on LinkedIn just to keep it going. It sounds like that's actually counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. Yeah, it's not productive because the LinkedIn algorithm is going to say, that's not any good. You didn't start a conversation. And I see this particularly coming from Instagram. I'll see Instagram users take that beautiful imagery that they've created and move it over to LinkedIn and get nothing. And it's because the audience sees it. They might even like it, but there was nothing there for them to engage in a conversation with. And so that's one of the biggest things. That's the takeaway from that. Yeah. Here's a piece of advice. Well, I guess I've been given lots of advice, but here's another piece of advice. Collaborative articles. All right. These are a new thing that's popped up on LinkedIn, and many of your listeners, and probably you, have been invited to participate in a collaborative article. Here's what's going on. LinkedIn is using AI to generate hundreds of topics around particular things. For example, there's one called motivational speakers. All right. So they've got 100 topics for motivational speakers. How do you prepare? How do you deal with criticism? How do you anxiety? There's all kinds of things. And Craig, you've been there and I've been there. Well, if you want to be known as a motivational speaker, you can go to these collaborative articles and leave a comment. And there are thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of people following these topics. So when you go and leave a comment, several things are happening. One, LinkedIn has generated these to start conversations. So you're training the algorithm by giving it useful information. And people are like, well, I'm giving away my knowledge. Yeah, that's the idea, because what also is happening is you're training the algorithm on how you want to be known on their platform. I'm going to go answer a bunch of questions around a topic, right? Leadership, public speaking, whatever it might be. Now the algorithm knows that if anybody's ever looking for somebody with that expertise, hey, let's go talk to Richard, because he's already demonstrated in our collaborative articles information that's very useful and people have upvoted it. So let's go ahead and make sure that his content shows up in front of a pertinent audience, and that audience is able to easily find him. Collaborative articles have been a brilliant way that LinkedIn's inviting people. They don't have to go create their own content. Instead, they can come and comment on that content that's already being generated for them.
Yeah, this is so good. This is actually a 7 or 8 figure conversation right now. If anyone's willing to apply it.
If they're willing to apply it. I had a friend who often said, to go with that, he said, he got off the phone with me and his wife turns to him and says, who is that? Oh, that was Richard Bliss. Just give me another $10,000 phone call.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's these I deal with multinational tech companies that span the globe. And I have an opportunity of working with some fantastic people and gaining insights into what works and what doesn't. So when you're talking to an individual who's trying to start off, I'm able to draw from information and knowledge that normally most people wouldn't have access to, and then share it with them, but also with your audience, that look, there are some very specific things you can do to have a massive impact on your brand, your customer reach, and your influence, all simply because it's different. And all you need to do is have somebody just kind of point it out, a knowledge transfer like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're able to act on it.
Yeah, so good. Pivoting for a second, aside from just social media and the marketing, you help a lot of companies and people boost their sales too. I think I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear your take on it. For boosting sales, marketing, extending your reach, all that stuff, how important is really cultivating strategic but genuine relationships?
Yeah, it is critical. And there's and again, let's come back to LinkedIn. Why should you be using LinkedIn to do this? I'm going to because LinkedIn is every single one of your clients, every single one of your prospects, every single one of your contacts has a LinkedIn account. That is not true for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. 100% of your people are on LinkedIn. And so what you can do, it's an open invitation to start to build relationships. But I got to tell you, the last thing I want is a cold email from somebody trying to pitch me something. I accepted a connection request from somebody today. Now, they met all my criteria. I looked at them, their background and their experience. I kind of looked at them. But the first thing they did was send me an email pitching me on all this information they have and would I like to set up a call with them. And it was basically an ask. They asked me to connect with them. I did. And then they asked me to set up an appointment with them. I'm not going to. Too many asks before they have given anything to my relationship. So to your audience, to answer your question is, how do you build those genuine relationships with people you don't know? Craig, how many of us put content on LinkedIn hoping nobody sees it? Nobody.
Yeah. So is that a trick question? I'm trying
to but it's, but we sometimes, so if you have a prospect or a contact or an executive or a thought leader, and you want to get to know them, authentic relationship, well, the first thing you should do is start giving to that relationship before you ask of anything.
Adding value.
Add value. So how do I add value? Well, if they've posted something on LinkedIn, go comment on it. That's okay. We've heard that. Or like it. Now, I just said that the like is kind of worthless, but again, now we've gone from a wide audience. Now we're going to a specific audience. Mm-hmm. I want to get to know that person. Well, go like their content. Maybe they're not posting any content. Okay. Step 2, go see if they've commented on anything and go like their comment. Or have they commented on something and comment on their comment? Anything to give to their relationship. Okay, now what happens if they're not engaging, they're not posting anything out there, it's just kind of, or they're randomly reposting stuff. I hate that. People just constantly reposting because it's only going to 1% of your audience and you didn't add any. I appreciate, we think we're adding value, but we're not. Anyway, What you could do is, let's use me as an example. Let's suppose somebody wants to do business with me for whatever reason. They're listening to this podcast, this stream. So what are they going to do? They're going to say, I listened to an interesting interview the other day that Craig put on, and he had a guest, Richard Bliss, and they're going to tag both you and I. And here's what Richard said. I find this fascinating, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's what he did. Well, I'm going to get notified. I'm going to get notified that somebody who I don't know, I'm going to take Nisangal, who's listening here. Nisangal mentioned you in a post. What's the first question I'm going to ask myself? Who's Nisangal? Who is this individual? What's the first thing I'm going to do? Or the second thing I'm going to ask myself? What are they saying about me? I'm going to go look. This is a fantastic way for anybody to influence a individual that they want to build a relationship with by referencing something they've done, whether they've been on a podcast, mentioned in an article, they posted something. Use them as a reference to share with your audience, and not just by hitting the repost button. That doesn't work. Create a new piece of content that says, I heard, I read, I engaged with, or I listened to this individual, and here's what they said that I found valuable for you, my audience. They're going to get notified by LinkedIn. They're going to be pulled in, and they're going to see you finding value in content that they created. That is the first step in you giving to that. Now, if somebody did that and then they reached out to connect with me, well, now there's a really good chance I'm probably going to accept it because they've already given to the relationship. And so this authentic engagement on LinkedIn goes far beyond simply just liking or randomly posting content or reposting. Instead, be purposeful about how you comment and how you engage with these individuals.
Purposeful and intentional. You know what's mind-boggling to me? What you're talking about right now really comes down to one word to me, and that is effort. Show that you care. Go a little bit.
Show that you care.
Go a little bit of the extra mile. Leave a comment. Reference it. And even like when you're reaching out to people, like let's just say you want to get them on your podcast or collaborate with them in some capacity. First of all, show how that you can add value to them first and foremost. Then reference something so it shows that you're actually paying attention, and then maybe include your ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a dot in front of my name on LinkedIn. Now, technically, that's against the terms of service. But why do I have that dot? Because I get multiple requests from people. Hey, Dot Richard, I blah, 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 blah. Or hey, Dot, meaning they've used some kind of automation tool to try to reach out to me and engage.
Oh, okay.
And that gives me an immediate heads up that I'm not accepting anything from you. An in-mail, a connection
request. You're your own
nothing.
gatekeeper. You screen them.
I'm my own gatekeeper with that little dot. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. This is so much fun. Switching the tone a little bit, I saw it was looking at some of your posts, which were awesome, by the way. And I highly suggest everyone catching the replay or live today. I not only follow and connect with Richard, but check out his content. And you gave a really cool lesson, and this was relatable to me, about how sometimes the hardest lessons are the best. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, think about, the basketball playoffs are going on right now, right?
A lot of fun.
And
for the Knicks.
Right. I was going to say, the Knicks are, Brunson's showing some incredible skills and everything, but they're shorthanded. They're trying their best.
Grit and heart too.
So what do they learn most from? When they win a game or when they lose a game?
Lose a game.
When they lose a game, because they make adjustments, they learn, they adjust, and that type of thing. So these lessons, these hard lessons are the best lessons if we're willing to take the emotion out of it. Or, don't take the emotion out of it, but at least have the skills or tools to process the emotion. Nobody likes to lose. And now see what lessons or opportunities present themselves because of that lesson that I've gone through. Look, I got fired from my job at one point as the chief marketing officer of a software company. You know who they gave my job to?
Who?
My wife.
Come on.
No, and now ex-wife. And
my goodness.
You want to talk? Yeah, we were married at the time. You want to talk about having a blow. And then shortly after that, she asked for a divorce. And so, you talk about learning some hard lessons and being able to reinvent yourself. That I had to stop and take all of it out of it. It was not easy. And so my advice to those who are listening is every time take that body blow, every time the team loses, let's look at the Timberwolves did. We're in this recording right now. They came back from being crushed by Denver
on the brink
to unbelievable effort because they adapted. Yeah. And they took Gobert off of Jokic. They stuck Cat on him instead. They made adjustments. And so learning from these failures is one of the best things that you can do in your career. And it's something I wouldn't be here today if the failures hadn't helped me become the person I am.
Yeah. And for anyone listening right now, that's like, well, that's easier said than done. Here's what I would suggest. I would say when it stings, when you get rocked, which is, by the way, part of the human experience, spoiler, just pause for a second. Don't react. Just say, okay, I know there's things in the moment, but what can I learn from this? What lesson is this trying to teach me that I can apply to improve in the future? And then number one, it stops the blow a little bit because you're always looking on how you can improve. And then also it kind of encourages you to fail and fail faster and more often because, unless you're done and you're willing to get back up, you're going to continue growing, expanding your vessel and learning more.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Looks like you're a big sports fan. Is that right?
I've been playing basketball for many, many, many years and continue to enjoy it. I live in the Bay Area. How can you not be a sports fan and not get to watch Clay and Steph and Draymond's a little bit difficult to watch sometimes, but right.
Yeah. And he had a good job in the studio. I was a little surprised. He's like,
I was a little surprised too. I was surprised they even had him back in the studio after his fiascos with his inability. He's got some anger management issues that he needs to work on, but it's nice to watch. We're seeing a very different style of athlete out there right now. I think Jokic is setting the tone. This is a humble man who is the best in the world. And yet he's not beating his chest. He's not flexing. The other night I watched, I can't remember what game it was. One of the players slam dunk, and then he's just flexing, right?
Yeah.
And then he stepped to the free throw line and couldn't even basically hit the rim. I'm like, dude, I appreciate you getting in somebody's face, but you better back it up with some fundamental skills other than just being able to jump high and slam it over somebody's head.
Touché.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah, I can talk about sports. Yeah, a little bit.
No, it's all good. I agree with you. It is the different type of character, I think. It's a good trajectory.
It is. The Jokic, Steph Curry, what he does, Tatum for Boston. These are individuals who are very, very good at what they do, and yet humble of recognizing where they're at, and they don't need to put it in anybody's face. They are the best at what they do.
Yeah.
You might not agree with the Boston reference, but okay. Hey, we can.
Yeah. Before we land the plane, just real quickly off the cuff, who do you think takes it this year overall? I'll say this, and then you answer. The Knicks look great, and we have a bright future, but I don't think this year. If even
they're thin,
get past Indiana, Boston's waiting.
Yeah, they're thin. They're thin, and after watching Draymond interview Jason Tatum the other night on TNT, I'm not usually a Boston fan. I mean, not usually, but I'm like, I'd like to see Boston win it. I'd like to see him be rewarded. Denver had it, but it's so hard to tell. I don't think Dallas can pull it off. Although the Thunder, I'd love to see the Thunder do it, only because they're the youngest team. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
And so they're out there and they don't have anything in their heads that nobody's told them they can't do this. And they're like, okay, let's go do this.
Such a good point.
Yeah.
For Boston, is Porzingis, will he be available in the finals if they make it, or is he injured?
I know Chuck was saying that without him, they can't do it. And so we'll have to see if he's able to recover. I'm not sure what the status of his injury is.
Love it. We'll land the plane real quickly so all our audience can get involved and so forth. What are you most excited about right now, and how can everybody support and get involved?
I'll tell you, and this is, everybody's talking about it, but look, generative AI is changing everything. And if you lean into it, find the niche, find the seam. There's so much right now with AI, so much. It's overwhelming. It's like, where do I start? Well, start with identifying a need in a market, a customer, and then find out how to use that to be the best at that. And it can be literally this small. Look, when I lost my job and got fired, I started a podcast that ran for 10 years about board games and Kickstarter. It ran 350 episodes, but it taught me things that I would have not ever been able to learn in a safe environment. So go find a way to lean into this, find a tiny little space, and then just get the best at it. And that's what I'm excited about, is that anybody can now master something so quickly, so fast, that they can make a difference almost overnight in their lives and in the impact of those people they interact with.
100%. And don't forget to add a little human touch to it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll end the plane with this real quickly. I know we're already having fun, but a little rapid fire, maybe 1 or 2 word answers. We'll rip through them. You ready for me?
Yep.
Richard, favorite movie?
Romancing the Stone.
Classic. Michael Douglas?
Yep. Michael Douglas. Yep.
Unbelievable. Okay. Your last meal on earth would be?
My last meal on earth would be something made by my wife, who's Greek and loves to cook. So I don't even care what it is.
Beautiful answer. Greek food is awesome. Okay. Favorite guilty pleasure?
I play a lot of board games. So that's a really guilty play. I play a lot of board games.
But that probably flexes the brain too. That's good.
Staving off Alzheimer's. That's all I'm trying to do.
I love it. Favorite workout?
Push-ups. 14 years in the Army. It's easy. It's simple. I've done 120 so far this morning, and it's just easy.
Love it. Favorite book?
That's probably going to be fiction. It's going to be the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov that's being run on Apple TV, or The Lord of the Rings, which I've read more than a dozen times. Nonfiction, it's going to be Atomic Habits by James Clear, or it's going to be The Fourth Turning by Strauss and Howe, that talks about what we're in today and the cycles that the American history goes through. So that would be it.
Got it. Okay. And last one, very, very deep stuff. Your favorite musician?
John Denver.
Done. Nailed it. This was so much fun. Richard, keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless, juicy nuggets today.
Craig, it's been awesome. Thanks for having me.
That was awesome. Hang out for 1 sec.